This is Twit.
I spoke many times last week about the upcoming speech or presentation or whatever it was, pronouncement that we were expecting from Barack Obama, the current U.S. president, obviously, about his administration's reaction to the NSA. We were hoping for something, and essentially we got nothing. The EFF, I suspected, would have a nice analysis of it, and indeed they did. I created a bit.ly shortcut for people who are interested because and you may want to bring this chart up, Leo, bit.ly/ all lowercase BO, as in Barack Obama, -NSA. So bit.ly/ BO-NSA. And this is their scorecard of his speech. Basically, they gave him they had 12 points, 12 major issues that they were hoping he would make some movement on, and so they could have all been ones, in which case he would have scored a 12 out of 12. As it was, there were about at least half of them were zeros, and there were only a couple that were ones. And actually, they were both. I think both of the ones were FISA FISA comments. One was oppose the FISA Improvements Act, which he is doing, and reform the FISA court, which he is doing. Those were the two ones. Overall, he got a 3.5 out of 12, not even out of 10, out of 12. So, and as I was listening to it, I was in real time during the speech. Most of it seemed just like punting, like he was saying, well, we'll be in the future doing this, and we will be in the future doing that. We're going to have a committee do this, and a lot of stuff was being turned over to Congress. So it's like, well, okay, I guess, I'm sure he did what he felt he should, but mostly it was just sort of a nothing speech. So I wanted to follow up on my having mentioned that, that would be happening on Friday, and it's like, yeah, okay, I maybe he did all that he could. I don't know.
I have to think that you get in fact, somebody said this, that, because he was very, as a senator, aggressively outspoken against this kind of government surveillance.
Yep.
And somebody said, imagine day one, you just got inaugurated, you come, you sit down in the Oval Office, and they say, Mr. President, here's the daily threat assessment. And oh my God, we've got to do something about this.
Yeah.
So I hate to rush to judgment given that we just don't know how much risk and there's out there. But he is paid lip service, and I think it should be more than lip service to the notion that we got to balance protection with freedoms and constitutional freedoms. What do you think about this? The NSA doesn't get to. Somebody's going to collect the data, but the NSA doesn't get to store it. They have to petition for a request. Does that not seem like an improvement?
It does, and really the way I think this should be set up, the only way that it is feasible is if there is a burden imposed on the providers.
And they don't want this at all.
Yes, they don't want it, but I say tough.
Right.
Look at what you're getting. The amount of revenue you're generating and the way the piss poor way you're treating your customers typically. The idea that I'm not using all my bandwidth in a month and so it resets at the beginning of the next month, and the idea that in many places I'm being charged for text messaging. That's just ridiculous. Anyway, they've got a sweet deal. So given the cost of mass storage, the fact that cloud storage is essentially, free for individuals now because it's so cheap to purchase drives, in return for the privilege of having the sweet deal the providers have, they archive these records. And they don't have to go back forever. 10 years, for example, is fine. And it is metadata. It is not large data. It is, tiny little entries of a start and an end of a call and what account it was and what cell towers it was on. Basically the metadata. It will, for one thing, it'll compress like crazy. And tell them they have to store it for 10 years. That's their obligation. If in today's new world, if they want the privilege of being able to provide this service, and then they have to have an infrastructure that allows them to respond in on obviously automated fashion to approved requests for a query from that data. That's the only way I can see that there is, a believable wall between the government wanting this kind of data and and the people who are holding it. If a third party is set up, that will just be seen as
let's have Target store it. Why not? Yeah.
Precisely. Well,
it's got to be the phone companies. It's got to be the telcos.
Or it'll just be seen as a surrogate for the NSA storage.
Right.
It's got to be fragmented.
Right.
The NSA has to put out a request to all the providers, and then they provide what they have, and then the NSA links it together. And it's worth mentioning also that it's standing out that for all of the furor that this metadata collection has generated, there has been no clear terrorism win in return for all of this. That is, it turns out to be one of the weakest sources of information in terms of actually delivering verifiable results from what we know.
Well, but then again, I acknowledge that we probably don't know everything, and maybe they can't talk about the wins for a variety of reasons. I mean, one of the things that is, you can't. This has always been a problem with espionage and crypto. In fact, remember with the Enigma machine, it was a real issue for us, the Allies, to use information they got from the German Enigma machine during World War II because it would be in effect an admission we'd cracked it.
Right. They had to set up fake convoys that would just by chance encounter these ships at sea and then radio in order to explain how they had the information.
So, I mean, look, I don't want to be an apologist, but I also understand completely that nobody wants to be the guy who said we're gonna stop all of this spying, and then there's a terrorist attack the following week.
Yeah,
and then of course the howls for saying that you've hobbled the agencies and you're not letting them do their job, and of course we got attacked, and this is very very difficult.